Thank you, Sita, and good afternoon for those who are in Bogor, Jakarta area or Indonesia, as well as good morning for the ones in Nairobi, Africa, and Europe. My name is Ahmad Dermawan, a scientist at CIFOR-ICRAF. Welcome to the session on trade and EU deforestation-free regulation in the CIFOR-ICRAF Partner Day of the 2023 Science Week. The notion of livelihood-enhancing outcome of trade is well understood in both economics and development studies. At the same time, the unintended impacts of trade and environment is also well recorded in several publications. Since the last decade, efforts to enhance the positive outcomes and tackle negative outcome have been underway. Several interlinked public, private, and self-regulation in this respect have been established. This brings us to the measure of the European Union on deforestation-free regulation. The background is that the study by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, which estimated about 420 million hectares of forest, which is larger than the size of the EU itself, were converted from forest to agricultural use between 1990 and 2020. And EU consumption represents around 10% of this land use change. To cut the long story short, in December 2022, the EU agreed to adopt a regulation on deforestation-free products, which requires companies in the EU to use a due diligence process to ensure that certain commodities and derived products entering or leaving the EU market are legal and are free from land that has not been deforested since 31st December of 2020. The European Parliament approved this law on 19th of April of this year, and it's then due to be signed off by the EU minister a few weeks later. The products covered by this new legislation are cattle, cocoa, coffee, palm oil, soya, and wood, including products that contain, have been fed, or which have been made using these commodities. For example, leather, chocolate, and furniture, as in the original proposal. During the negotiation, there was added rubber, charcoal, and printed paper, and a number of palm oil derivatives. In this context, those products are produced by many of countries in the south, notably Indonesia, which produce several of those, although Indonesia is not the main producer of soybean. Producers operating are classified into low standard or high risk ranking, depending on goods that are linked to deforestation. So in this session, we'll discuss this regulation and what are the implications of those, what it means to the global trade, the environment, and especially the actors along the global value chain, which may have been the weakest in the chain. There are which are smallholders. So in this session, we are glad that there are several panelists available. Some of you may then whisper, but I would like to start introducing them. The first is Mr. Muhammad Edi Yusuf, from the Deputy of Food and Agribusiness Coordination, coordinating Ministry of Economic Affairs. He will join online, and please, Pak Edi Yusuf, could you confirm that you are here already? Pak Edi Yusuf? Okay, well, we'll just continue then. The second panelist is Ms. Henriette Vergman, the first Chancellor of the European Union delegates to Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam, and European Union delegation to ASEAN, who will also join online. The third is Professor Ahmad Maryudi, a full professor of forest policy and governance at the Faculty of Forestry, Universitas Gadjah Mada. Please, Pak Professor Maryudi, you may be seated. The fourth panelist, oh yes, please. Yeah. The fourth panelist is Dr. Gede Wibawa, who is at the Research Perkebunan Nusantara. Please, Pak Gede, welcome. And the last panelist is no other than our Professor Heri Purnomo, Professor at IPB University and Deputy Country Coordinator Indonesia Country Program or CIFOR-ICRAF. Now, about the whispering thing that I mentioned before. All male panelists here and only one female participant. Yes, we know that, but we intended not to do so. So we had two last-minute cancellation and unavailability of two women speakers, highly esteemed speakers. So we just have to navigate with what we can do today. Yeah. But I hope it doesn't reduce the meaningfulness of the discussion in this session, and particularly since that most of you participants of these events are, I think I can say most, but because it looks more, so it's our women. So without further ado, but I need to check if with the organizer if Pak Edi Yusuf and Ms. Henriette Fergman are already joining us. Could you confirm? Not yet. I saw Pak Edi Yunus already joined before before coming here. Yeah. Oh, but he left out again. Okay. But I mean, we just have we'll continue with the session. So please bear with us. So we are waiting for them to join via online. So I'll move here. New microphone. Yeah. Good. So let me start by asking Pak. Sorry. I will start with asking Pak Professor Harry. So the first, what are the implications of EU deforestation-free regulation on the global trade, smallholders, and the environment? And how will the regulation affect Indonesia as the global producer? Yes.
Well, I believe there is a positive in terms of environment. It's very clear because till now there is, for instance, oil palm and coffee coming out from the forest area. Still some. I think Indonesian wide is 3.2 million hectare of oil palm is in forest area. Will create a palm oil economy reduction in the future because we cannot anymore plant oil palm in the forest area. It's very clear. For instance, in the Kobar, Kota Waringin Barat, still every year I think there is 1,000 hectare oil palm planted in the forest area. But of course, also there is a good side in terms of reducing emission, because very clear that UDR you cannot clear the forest and then planted with a coffee, for instance, or oil palm. Yeah? So will reduce the emission, will reduce the biodiversity loss, of course. So there is a trade-off between economy and environment. It's very, very clear to me. So I think the point is how to compensate the loss of economy due to environmental benefit. And also very clear from my calculation that the benefit from the carbon emission reduction cannot or not able to compensate because palm oil economy is huge, and carbon profit is peanut. To me it's like it's only 10% compensate. Thank you.
Thank you, Perry. I see several notes about the potential benefit in terms of incentivizing planting on oil palm on the forest, but it's also the potential loss of Indonesia's economy because of the reduction from export, for example. Pak Maryudi, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would say differently from what Pa Heri has said. I think it is too early to say that the regulation will produce good impacts on outcomes in terms of environment. I think there have been so many initiatives, so many instruments with the same basis, like forest certification, like flat stay. There were high expectation on this instrument, but we witnessed that this instrument does not really or have not yet produced what expected earlier.
It is too early to say.
Too early to say that
say.
it will
But
produce
we can
a
learn
good
actually
environment.
from the forest sector, right? Yeah. What the benefit and cost from the forestry sector, for instance, because of flag tea, we promise able to cut the.
Please feel free.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in terms of the economic things, I think we would say the same thing, that it will be some adverse impacts on the Indonesian forest sector and also the agricultural sector, that with the new restriction, it will affect the ability of the Indonesian companies or Indonesia as a country to engage in the market. But the thing is, we also need to see the broader context. What I mean, the export of Indonesia, that I mean the percentage of Indonesian product going to AU maybe not 10%, 15%. So
I think it's more. I think it's more than.
Yeah.
It is a significant, but not the largest one, I believe.
We have to cut first. I would like to first welcome Henriette Bergman from the EU delegation of Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam. Could you say hi or to confirm that you already be in this room?
Hello.
Yes, hello everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can hear you.
yeah.
So would you like to update? We just started our discussion with the question on what the implication on this regulation for the environment, smallholder and environment. And you may have seen that it's already been heated between two professors here. So I would like to hear from you about your thoughts on what could be the implication on this for both European Union as well as Indonesia on this matter. Please, Henriette.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm really sorry that I couldn't come to be with you. I had looked forward to being in the room, but something happened, so now I'm here in Jakarta. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to also be part of this panel. So I think you can imagine that the deforestation regulation is one of the topics that we speak most about these days. So we had already several meetings, even today, this morning and this lunchtime, with different parts of Indonesia community. So it's clearly something that is really posing a lot of interest and a lot of questions from people here. I think you have heard very well why we in the EU feel that we have to do this, to come forward with this regulation. It's very much due to the fact that our consumers are very concerned that they don't want to be, buying things that can be associated with deforestation. So this is one of the reasons that this has come forward. So I would say from a European perspective, the most positive that will come out of this regulation is that the consumers in Europe will be 100% sure that they are not contributing to deforestation. So they will feel very safe when they import things from Indonesia and from the other countries. We have seen in the past that there have been campaigns, less or more true, and we think that this is really going to go away. So there will not be any link between these products and some perceived deforestation. So that's really positive. For Indonesia, I heard you just say a few things about FLECT. So we have the feeling that FLECT has been hugely beneficial for Indonesia, but also for the EU, because it has helped really kind of clean up the sector. So it's made sure that things are legal, that they are produced in a proper way. If something irregular is happening, then there's a system of people can complain and inform and so on. So we feel that this has been very beneficial. And I know there's a lot of discussion about whether it has been beneficial in terms of market, in terms of the European market. From our assessment, we think it has been beneficial. We think that it has given a really good reputation to Indonesian timber and timber products. But of course, we couldn't say how it would have looked if this had not happened. So it's difficult to compare with something that is not happening. And we have a feeling that this would be the same also for the other commodities. That I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say that there will be no work associated with this, because there will. There will need to be some clearing up of certain parts of the different commodity sectors. But we feel like there's such a good example of the timber sector. We've worked on the legality. Now we can work on documenting that the timber is deforestation-free. And all these experiences we can really share also with the other commodities. So we think that there's a good development that can come out of this. But of course, it will require some work.
Thank you, Hendra. Before moving on, I saw that Pak Edi Yusuf is already joined us. Selamat sore, Pak Edi.
Selamat sore. I'm so sorry. My picture is my camera cannot appear here. I already told you my team, my staff here, but still not appear. I'm so sorry. You hear my voice, Pak?
Yeah. Clearly, Pak Edi. If you have heard about our initial discussion, could you, if you would have some thoughts on this question on what are the implications of this EU deforestation-free regulation?
Because sometimes the connection is not so clear, but I would like to say here related with the palm oil conditions, and also what's the next that we have to do. We already have a note here. I thought that I will give presentation, but this is simply we discuss. It's okay. First of all, we related with the palm oil. That's hopefully even though right now the EUDR is already launched, and we as you know, that's first of all I would like to say that Indonesia is still the position not accepted for these conditions. So we still thinking that this is one of the trades impediments, and hopefully that this condition can be it can be resolved. So that's why I would like to say also that we will have a joint mission together with the Minister of Malaysia. Our minister and Minister of Malaysia will going to EU to talk about the issues related with the EUDR. But again, that we really underlines that hopefully, especially for those commodities that already have sustainability standards. For example, that's in palm oil, we already have ISPO, and ISPO itself is the certification of the ISPO is already advanced, and traceability as well there, and comply to the rule there, and also a practice of the good agriculture practices is also there. So we really hope that by having the standard like that, is EU will recognize And I will also inform you that right now that Indonesia and EU also still negotiate related with the Indonesia EU CEPA, and hopefully one of the agreement can be reached is related with as I mentioned before, that the agriculture commodities which is certified sustainable can enter, and that the EU will recognize our certification. That is our message is like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Edi. So I see that, I mean, even if Indonesia, the EU has issued this deforestation-free regulation, is in Indonesia to some degree is well prepared for this. Indonesia has ISPO, Indonesia has SPLK, and there could be some transitional period between the period that the law is issued and the law is being implemented. So there could be some support both from the producer and consumer countries. Could now I'm moving to Henriette. Could you elaborate if there are such things, and how would that work, and how this support system can be accessed, please?
Yes, of course. Yes, so just to comment on the words of Pa Edi, indeed, we are really looking forward to welcoming Pa Erlangga and the Deputy Malaysian Minister to Brussels. There will be meeting with the highest level of our politicians. So we hope that this can be a really good and fruitful discussion so that we can find the way forward. Because as you know, the EU deforestation regulation is already agreed. So there's not really so much scope for negotiation, but of course there's scope for cooperation and for ensuring that we can work jointly on the implementation. And I'm glad that Pa Edi was mentioning ISPO, because of course, while there is no opportunity to formally recognize standards that are in foreign countries, this is simply legally not possible for the EU. But it is possible to, of course, for the operators in the EU who will be carrying out the due diligence, of course, they will look very carefully at what is already there. So if a consignment of palm oil, for example, is certified with MSPO, RSPO, ISPO, or anything else, then of course this will give a very good indication to the operators or to the importers that maybe they don't need to look so carefully at this as they need to look at other things that are not certified in this way. So we have had meetings, or even this week, together with ISPO. We're going to have meeting also with MSPO because through our CAMI project that I think many of you know, that is implemented by the European Forestry Institute, we have been carrying out a comparison between the different existing standards and the requirement of the EU deforestation regulation. And we can really see that many of the things that will be asked by the deforestation regulation are somehow covered by these standards. Some are also not covered. So our view would be that we should try to find out how can we work together on the issues that still needs to be addressed. And then, of course, there are very important things in terms of rollout. So where MSPO is very fully rolled out, even to smallholders, ISPO is still not so much rolled out. So we think that there's really a lot of things that can be done to strengthen ISPO, make it really address some of the issues that are covered by the deforestation regulation, and then also to work together on rolling it out to everybody, including the smallholders. And this will require a lot of things. For example, there are issues in relation to legality for smallholders and some of these things. So we've identified a number of things that we feel we can work together on. So I already mentioned CAMI project, and as you know, this is already going on for some time, and we've, I think, done really good work. We've worked together also with BAPENAS on developing this sustainable jurisdictional indicators, and we have done a lot of work now on trying to look at the deforestation regulation and compare it with the situation on the ground in Indonesia and Malaysia. So this is one avenue of cooperation that will go on for quite some time. We will have another program that will come into place where we can look also at other commodities, because I think timber and palm oil, we have a relatively good understanding of the situation because we've cooperated on them for such a long time. But for some of the other relevant commodities, in particular coffee, cocoa, and rubber for Indonesia, we don't know quite as much. So we will have another contract that will allow us to look at this. And then also more importantly, because it's not only about technical assistance, it's also about really implementing this. And so we have proposed from the European Investment Bank, we have proposed that we could come with a grant a loan, and possibly with a grant that could help really this, what I talked about, strengthening ISPO, rolling it out, supporting smallholders, ensuring traceability, all these kind of topics that are really important for the EUDR and for making sure that the smallholders can still be in the market. We would like to work together on this, and we will have funds and money available for this. We also have another pot of money, which is something called the EFSD Plus, which is money that we are giving to a number of banks. And some of these banks have identified sustainable agricultural commodities as areas that they wanted to work on. So, for example, there is, let me see here. Yeah, no, I can't find the names just now, but anyway, this we can always share later on. But I mean, important to know there is existing money, more money upcoming, and we are really keen to work together on this.
Yeah, thank you. Pak Gede, since Henriette mentioned about smallholders, so I know it's big, and again, the only reliable data that I could quote was the 2013 survey, which is 1.5 smallholder which grows oil palm, but I think now it should be much bigger than that. Could you elaborate more about how the smallholders are in not only oil palm, but also on other commodities that you are aware of, please?
Thank you, Pak Eri. Thank you for inviting me spontaneously today as one of resource person. I'm working before at the Indonesian Research Institute for Estate Crop. So smallholders, apart from the oil palm that let's say a bit supported by the government, other plantation crop owned by smallholders are not fully supported by the government. As you know, that smallholder oil palm area is about 46% of the total of more than 13.8 million hectare. Yeah, and as you said, the role of this oil palm oil smallholders on the value chain is very important. I think Henriette has absorbed the voices of the smallholders when the UDR in place. Yeah, I'm with you in Borobudur. Yeah, but the point that I would like to mention and to share here, the voices from the community of the smallholders, especially the oil palm, when we are discussed here, is about 40 to 45% of the smallholders oil palm are within the forest area. If we are talking about the legality and deforestation area, it is a big issue for the smallholders. For the next 2 years, if let's say the cut-off date December 2020, then smallholders maybe the regulation for smallholders will be the next 24 months, if I'm correct on that. Yeah, the smallholders in Indonesia mostly, especially for the oil palm, is still struggle in the upstream area. Yeah, for the productivity, implementing good agricultural practices, etc. Beside of the request, the demand for the sustainable product. Yeah, one point that. And I think now the smallholders also struggling with the low price of oil palm, the palm oil, the oil palm at the smallholders level, because they sell in fresh fruit bunches. Yeah. Before they are thinking, I'm agree with Pak Heri when we are talking about the positive impact on the environment. Yes. Yeah. But beside the environment, there are also impact on income and social.
Yeah.
The income now, they are still struggling on that.
Mm-hmm.
The government support is very good on how to increase or intensify to increase the productivity through the replanting program. But beyond that, there are still a challenging issue at the smallholders level. I think Henriette has very good information on that. The point that I would like also to discuss and to raise in this very good forum is when the regulation will implement it, I don't know whether in the next 16 months or next year, after the Implementation Act is in place, there are still questions whether the conversion of the forest to oil palm, conversion of the forest to oil palm, yes, it is considered deforestation. I discussed with Pak Heri just an hour ago that in Indonesia, there is also characteristic of what we call rubber agroforestry system. This is what we are here now. Rubber agroforestry system is considered as forest. So when, according to us, yeah, and according for what I understand from the definition of the FAO, because FAO specify that rubber plantation is forest.
Okay.
This is a good discussion on this, and whether after the cut of the 2020, the conversion of the rubber agroforest into palm oil is considered as deforestation.
Yeah.
Or otherwise, the conversion of the rubber agroforest to rubber plantation is deforestation. That's
a good point. I mean, there is a gap between international definition and national context and realities. Pak Heri, please.
I just want to comment to Pak Edi Yusuf. Yeah. We have a project called the Trade-Up Project, funded by UKRI, and what factor impact to sustainability of oil palm Indonesia? You know, the greatest one is consumer behavior. So the consumer, even not Indonesia, even abroad, matter of the sustainability. This is what the most impacting factor is a consumer behavior. Now, if the EU consumer want to be green, I think somewhat is good for Indonesia, Pak Edi. That's one reason, and the other one is how we define sustainability of oil palm. Among 300 participants mentioned two most factor define sustainability. First is no deforestation. So there is no sustainable oil palm if involved deforestation. The second one, employment. So employment, but if sustainability means reducing the smallholders, the income, the employment, it's not sustainable oil palm. It's unsustainable. Bit controversial.
Before moving on, I'd like to invite questions from participants both here in Bogor or in Nairobi. And I would like to start with one. Pak Enda, please. Microphone. Others can also, online participants can also type in the Zoom chat to pose the question. And
hi.
Thank you. Please.
This is probably best suited to be addressed by you, Henriette. I think while the EU ban has an ecological face to it, can we honestly admit that the political drive, the discretionally based political drive political economy is larger than the face, because if it was purely science-based, you'd actually see toilet papers there, right there on the top. 600 million people in Europe chop trees down to use their toilet papers. There is a justification made by the EU that this was based on the survey, but that survey has been heavily influenced by years and years of campaigning orangutans as a result of palm oil, but nothing on tea and nothing on toilet papers. And I think this is where the Indonesian president came in and said, well, if we're going to have a discussion about ecology, we can. If we're going to have a discussion about political economy, we can. But we do it bilaterally rather than unilaterally, because the logic behind omitting the #1 source of deforestation as an end product in Europe doesn't make sense when the second option of palm oil is nor is it sustainable and nor is it sufficient to replace the use of palm oil anywhere around the world. We're deliberately taking a one-sided view based on the drive of the European industry's need. And I think this is where the honesty, and I know Pak Eddie could not speak as honest as I am because he's acting as a diplomat, but this is the honesty that the world now sees, that it doesn't make sense. You're chopping trees more than you are replanting, and India and China is doing a lot more planting trees for a product that humanity does not need. Please raise your hand if you can prove me science that toilet papers are needed. And yet, here the Indonesian palm oil producers are impacted by that. Henriette, perhaps some shared insights on this could help the discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, please, Henriette, if you are, if you could give a quick, a brief response to that.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I have to disagree with you. There's no ban. I know that people keep repeating this, but it doesn't make it true. So please stop saying that. There is no ban. There is a requirement that products that come on the European market are legal and deforestation-free. That's everything. As far as I know, there are the huge majority of all kind of producers, including palm oil in Indonesia, are not deforesting now. So I think we have to make sure that we don't blow this out of proportion, because this is going to affect a very small minority that are still deforesting. And according to our scientific analysis, I don't know where you have the numbers on toilet paper from. Honestly, I can say that in none of the 30,000 pages of impact assessment have I seen these numbers. So yeah, I'm very willing to hear more about it, but I don't think that this is a serious discussion right now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, please, go ahead.
I just want to comment on the consumer behavior. I think maybe everyone says that consumers in EU have more awareness on the green and things. Yeah, I don't think that we can simplify these things, because Henriette even said that 100% of consumer in Europe will support the deforestation. There are a lot of studies. There are a lot of studies on, for example, forest certification, awareness of the consumer. Not necessarily that way. I mean, yes, the awareness is increasing, but maybe still not 100%. Maybe only, I don't know, 20% or like this. This is the first thing. And the second thing, even in the government, yeah, in the government level, I had already a study conducted just last year, with the collaboration with Freiburg University. We try to assess the potential impact of EU deforestation-free policy and in relation with flat tea. We work on flat tea for 20 years. Yeah, for 20 years. We thought that all of the government officials in Europe will understand fully on the flat tea. But we conducted the interviews with the government of France, Germany, Czech Republic, Italy, many government.
They don't understand.
They don't understand what is flat tea. Even in the government. So I'm not quite convinced with the simplification of the thinking that the consumer or the European government on the what's that, the environment aspect, this thing. So I fully agree about this. What is the political drive of this? Yeah. So this is important, I think.
Yeah, as a French, I'm totally relating to the fact that probably a lot of the people don't really understand what happened here. And I think it's a very good case of something that was designed with very good intention, and then you know that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And and there are so many issues that are raised by this legislation, good and bad, that in fact it's something that really we should really look in terms of, okay, what does it mean for the European side of the story? What does it mean for the Chinese side of the story? What does it mean for the producing side of the story? And I have the text here, I'm just reading, in line with FAO definition, agroforestry system, including when crops are grown under tree cover, as well as agri-silvicultural, silvopastoral, agro-silvopastoral system, should not be considered forest, but constitute agricultural use. So you can get rid of all your jungle rubber, flat, sell your timber, and this is not deforestation because it's agricultural land. Similarly, if you open a road in the forest, or you create a new capital in the forest, whatever you can cut, you can sell it, because fundamentally it's not agricultural use. So there is a lot of issue in terms of simply the definition, the understanding of things. And of course, because this text is very much in terms of principle, you don't have the application. You don't have the implementation text, the arrêté. And that's until we see that, that's where we see where there is a problem or not a problem. And to add to the thing, I was on the other night on an event organized by one of the countries that is geographically part of the Europe, but not part of the European Union, and they say, oh, no worries, we are going to buy your oil palm whenever you want. And then it will come as chocolate via the border. Over.
Thank you, Robert. I saw an online question from Andrew or comments. Could you show it, and so that at least I would direct this to Pa Mariudi.
Ahmad, we also have a question from Nairobi when you have time.
Yeah, okay. After this, then from Nairobi. Andrew has a question for Henrietta, but I think Pa Mariudi could also answer. Public investment in FLEGT and VPAs has amounted to more than an estimated 800 million euros. What do you think would be the long-term cost to the EC to regulate 6 commodities? Henriette and then Pa Mariudi, please. And after this, Nairobi. Yeah, please, Henriette.
Yeah, so first of all, it's not even 6, it's 7 commodities, so it will be more than you think. I do not know what the numbers are. I know that there has been calculations, but I cannot tell you what the cost will be. What I can say is a comment to the previous French colleague that even chocolate is covered by the derived products, so it will not help to import things and make them and turn them into chocolate. They will still be, whether they come from neighboring countries or from far away, they will still be subject to the regulation.
Thank you. Mariudi, any thoughts about the FLEGT, the VPA, and how would this, Indonesia is still the first country who obtained FLEGT license, but what do you think about this compatibility, long-term, short-term, and what needs to be added or strengthened from the Indonesian side to be compliant or compatible with the deforestation regulation on timber?
Yeah, I think before we discuss about the potential compatibility between the FLEGT, the deforestation-free policy, and or even forest certification, I think we need to look back in 90s, yeah, when we talk about the emergence of forest certification. Yeah, it emerged because of mainly the perception that the ineffectiveness of the government initiative or approach or regulation. So emerged non-state initiative for certification, these things. And there were, I mean, the expectation was quite sky high, yeah, that this can be a good initiative to promote sustainability, to solve the complex problem, social, economic, and environment. But 10 years later, 20 years later, we talk about the uptake, yeah, the uptake of forest certification, more, specifically FSC, yeah. The uptake's very limited when we talk about the Indonesia and other tropical countries. This is the main reason why flax tea was introduced. The low uptake of forest certification, one main reason is the standard was too high. The standard too high. So for companies in Indonesia and other tropical countries or producer countries, we cannot fulfill all of the things. So that's why it came flax tea. So we need to lower the expectation, yeah, to find what is the key problem, the key aspect that can be used as stepping stone for sustainability, legality, yeah, legality. There are two different views on why the change from sustainability to legality. The first view is that it is a kind of race to bottom. Yeah, race to bottom. Yes, this is from sustainability. No, we cannot fulfill this. This is too high, so we lower down the standard. The problem, so legality. So it is bad. Some people say like that. But the others say that is good. This can be a good stepping stone. Yes, stepping stone for sustainability. I think when we talk about the first view, I think it is I have feeling the AU hold this view that legality is not enough. So sustainability or deforestation-free policy. This is. But I'm rather more aligned on the second view, that it can be a good stepping stone. Yeah, yes, legality, and then when we have seen already that the government of Indonesia also already improved the, the broadened standard, not only legality, but also sustainability. SPLK covering legality and sustainability as well. I think this is a kind of stepping stone to good practices. Yeah. So on this kind of things, Pak Ahmad.
Thank you. Harry, any opposing comments?
Yeah, just want to say something. In last October, there was FSC General Assembly in Bali, and now it's a huge benefit from the EUDR actually, was in the FSC standard that timber companies that coming from deforestation after 94 were not able to join FSC standard, 94. But due to EUDR, now they move the cut-off year into 2020. So some actually enjoy it because of the EUDR. Also, I was interviewed by Mongabay because some NGO, Greenpeace for instance, doesn't like the EUDR. Because if you cut your forest in 2019, then it's okay to export to the EU. You will be happy to use the oil palm oil from deforestation if it is before 2020.
Thank you, Perry. To Nairobi then, please guys. Paulo.
Thank you, Ahmad. One big problem I heard before where we were mentioning the flag T and the VPAs. It's Paolo Ceruti from CIFOR-ICRAF here. Was that the changes in the legal frameworks in the producing countries, for many reasons, had an impact on everybody along the value chain. including those SMEs and smallholders that do not export to Europe. Now, the question is, with the number of commodities increased to 7, we know exactly, I know more Sub-Saharan Africa than Indonesia or Southeast Asia, sorry. We have millions of smallholders here that are not producing for the European market. So my question is, are we taking enough safeguard that the new measures that producing countries will have to adopt, will also safeguard against the negative impact on the millions of smallholders that are still producing cocoa, coffee, timber, but have nothing to do with Europe? Because that's the other reverse side of the coin. You know, countries like Cameroon, DRC, Cote d'Ivoire, taking measures to respond to requests from Europe that then have an impact on every single producer in their own countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Follow. Yeah, I think in Indonesia we also share probably the same concern with other commodities. Just oil palm and timber are probably the one that is more visible. But Indonesia is also a large rubber producer, and there are a significant number of cocoa and coffee producers in the country. Perhaps Pak Gede and then Pak Maryudi and then from Pak Edi or Ms. Hendret. Pak Gede, please, if you have any thoughts. Yeah.
I think the point from smallholders to the consumer countries, there are an important step within Indonesia. That was a producer and processor and producers, and then exporter. So now at the rubber industry worries about the UDR is how the smallholders, because rubber, coffee, and cocoa in Indonesia mostly smallholders, more than 90%. So what will be the impact of these measures to their business in Indonesia? Yeah, as a figure, Indonesia used to export 3 million ton of rubber. Yeah, because of let's say because of old, very classic reason, because of old rubber plantation, etc. Then the rubber area is reducing. There's also a question of conversion to another crop, especially for oil palm. This now, with a struggle of the, as I said, struggle of the upstream issues, there is another measures that will hamper, that will, let's say, that will influence the smallholders. That's what I worries. Yeah, so I share the worries of the smallholders, especially on these measures.
But at the same time, I would argue that smallholders are resilient. Small producers are resilient. I mean, Pak Maryudi has done studies in the small-scale timber operators on how they try to work around this flexible VPA. Could you elaborate more on that, Pak?
Yeah, Pak. Thank you, Pak Ahmad. Actually, I don't take a definition of smallholder for granted, actually. So people often associate smallholder to scale of operation. But I don't think that's quite simple. So I would say a smallholder also relates the capacity to access the finance, to access the information, to access the technology, to access the market. So I think when we talk about what is smallholder, so we talk not only the scale of operation, how many hectares, but also the capacity to access this thing. This is the first thing. But even with the consideration, I'm sided. I'm in the position that to say that smallholder will be very impacted with this new measure. In every market, we can see clearly forest certification, they are impacted. More impacted. In Flexi, the same thing. maybe in the deforestation-free policy regulation, they will be more emphatic than the large operation. So I agree with Paulo. Yeah, I agree with Paulo. We need to take this into consideration in implementing, in operationalizing the regulation safeguard.
Thank you.
For the
Thank you. I would like to direct the question to Pa Eddie Yusuf. Then I know that this year is the next agricultural census. So I'm sure Pa Eddie Yusuf is aware of this. Would you think that the data that came up from this census would be useful to first understand how big the size of smallholder agriculture and forestry is, and what would be the measures by the government of Indonesia to help or to protect them to ensure that they could participate in this global value chain of commodities. Pa Eddie Yusuf, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak. Well, actually, this is very important related with the agricultural census, because we will know clearly that there's a number of the smallholder can see again, that's it, can see clearly. Of course, like Pak Maryudi and also Pak Gede mentioning related with the impact of this regulation to the smallholder. Yes, we need to protect the smallholder and also to help them. And as you know that the data right now, like Pak Gede mentioning, that the ownership of the in the commodity of the rubber is around 98% belongs to the smallholder, and in the cocoa also it's also almost 99%, and coffee as well is around 96 to 98%. So it means that this size of the smallholder will have a impact on the regulation. So from the side of the government, we really care about this matter. So we will try to prepare for this policy. So for example, for the certification for the palm oil, as you know, that's by the regulation in the presidential regulation number 44, is for the smallholder will be supported by any party, including the government as well. And then for the another commodity, and we will also help them, not only for this related with good agriculture practices, but also we try to make sure that the smallholder can reduce the mitigation of this EUDR. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Eddie. Another follow-up question, Pak, before closing here. We are approaching the closing time. So thinking forward, Pak Eddie, what would be the Indonesian position on how to move forward this EU deforestation regulation, given that at the same time we are also, I think the government of Indonesia is also preparing the next probably medium-term plan, 2024-2029. Will there be any consideration on protecting or improving the capacity of the smallholders to become more sustainable in that medium-term plan, Pak Eddie, please?
Yes, sure. That's as you know, that's related with especially related with the traceability in the commodity is very important, and for the smallholder itself, because like I mentioning before, that the percentage of the smallholder is very, very big. So we must give more attention for the smallholder. We also think, for example, in the rubber itself, we have a problem for the replanting program. So rubber, the main another strategic commodities, we also give attention. As you know that we have right now, by regulation, we have 8 strategic commodity. First is palm oil, the second is coconut, coffee, cacao, and then tea, tobacco, and what else? Rubber. So around 8 commodities. So we will pay more attention for the strategic commodities, because of the strategic commodities is have a big impact for our economy and to make the smallholder more welfare. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you. Now to Henriette, any closing remarks or final thoughts on how the EU would move forward with this?
Yeah.
Given, yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. There are a couple of comments also in the chat that maybe I can just address before we close. So first of all, there's a comment about RSPO covering 93%. It's true, this is also numbers that we have heard. It's worth noticing that it's 90% of the FFO. It's not for the biofuels, obviously, so it's only a proportion of what the EU is actually importing. Then in terms of what we could be doing, how we could cooperate, I welcome that question particularly, because I think all of these issues that we are talking about, this is really what we feel that we could be working on together. I mean, the traceability, of course, the really supporting the smallholders in an actual way to make them sustainable for their livelihood, to make sure that they can remain where they are, and that is simply not compatible with continuing to deforest. And that's also what we hear from the smallholders themselves. They don't want to continue deforesting. They want to have support for replanting. They want to have much more engagement from the government side in terms of having the replantation programs cover much more widely. They want to have the legality of their production that are in the forest areas recognized. So I think there's a lot we can do to support smallholders that does not include deforestation. So I think it's a bit of a twisted discussion to say that smallholders want deforestation, because I don't think they do. So this would be kind of my final comment. And again, so one more question. Sorry, there's one saying, what can scientific organizations do? And I think you can do a lot by actually making this discussion very sober, making sure that it's not based on this propaganda or that propaganda, because I think that's really not helpful. I don't think we are on opposite sides on this. I think we are really on the same side. And I think it's very good if you can help support the logical arguments. Thank you very much for organizing this, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Henry.
Pak Ahmad, one word that I would like to say to Henry or the message.
Please briefly, Pak Edi. Yeah.
Okay, just one sentence to Henry. As I mentioned before, that we already have standards of certification related with the commodities. For example, for the palm oil we already have. For the cacao we have Cacao Lestari, and rubber we have Snappy. Coffee we have Scoppy. So we really hope that for those that is already have a standard of certification can be waived by this EU TR. Thank you, Pak Ahmad. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
Let me just reply. I met with the ISPO Secretariat, on Monday, and they tell me that there is a cutoff date for deforestation that is related to the moratorium of palm oil. But as far as I know, the moratorium on palm oil expansion was withdrawn with the omnibus law. So I think there's not really a legal clarity on whether ISPO even covers deforestation or not. So I think there are, and that's what I'm saying, we've been analyzing this, and we're very willing to talk about how it could and should be improved so that it's more compatible with the requirements.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll move to the three panels here for a quick closing remarks between 30 seconds to 1 minute each. Please.
Pak Eri.
Yeah, thanks, Ahmad. I would like to restate actually what the Abednego Tarigan mentioned. He's the deputy chief of the presidential office. That EU and Indonesia both have a legitimate interest. So EU has a right to deliver that kind of regulation, but Indonesia also have a different interest. While EU is more, their interest more to the environment, Indonesia still on the poverty alleviation, still how to feed our people. So the key is dialogue actually. Without mentioning you have your own interest without recognizing others. So it's a dialogue.
Okay. Pak Gede, please.
I think continue with the point dialogue. Yeah, I think the program I understand it under Pak Heru's program at ICRAF, at CIFOR-ICRAF, I think this program also permit the facilitation of dialogue from ICRAF, research institutes, the government, and also the other stakeholders. I think this is very important. One, not only for oil palm and timber, I think, but also as our discussion, rubber, cocoa, coffee is also one of the landscape what we have in Indonesia, important landscape in Indonesia.
Thank you. Yeah, Pak Mariudi.
I think it is good to make a final remark at the very end. So from the discussion, I'm learning something. So I believe that no one wants deforestation is everywhere. So everybody, when we talk about sustainability, so people, yeah, this is what we expect. But the thing is, the expectation sometimes different. So this is what I learned from Pak Edi and Bu Henriette discussion, that somehow the expectation is different. It is also mentioned by Pak Heri as well, that it is, but for me is the building the understanding is important. Yeah, building the understanding, for example, the Indonesian expectation, AU expectation, my own expectation, scientist expectation. This is the thing. So I think communication, building understanding is quite important to achieve what we want to achieve the sustainability. I think sustainability is a kind of continuous journey.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Facilitating continuous dialogue on expectation. That's the 3 words. Thank you all for the panelists for the lively discussion.